Is a military coup being orchestrated in case of a Trump victory in 2024? Well, a military takeover of the United States government. It appears that that is the case, according to a stunning report from NBC News, which we'll get to that bombshell piece of the story in a moment. But first, why would they be concerned about Trump? Well, this week, of course, President Trump won the Iowa Republican caucus by the highest margin in history.
So based on the first results and our Fox News voter analysis, the Fox News decision desk can now project that former President Donald Trump will win the Iowa caucuses.
He will take the lion's share of the state's 40 delegates. This result really solidifies his place as the current frontrunner for the nomination.
Clearly, DeSantis came in a distant second place. The deep state's favorite candidate, Nikki Haley, in third place. Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, has ended his campaign and endorsed Donald Trump. They had a big event yesterday, and it was a lot of glad handing and hugging, and there's a lot of discussion. People were yelling out in the audience, VP, VP for Vivek. And so we'll see about that. Nikki Haley said she won't do any more debates, so they've been canceled. So now what? Well, now the deep state, the CIA, has a decision to make. End Trump's chances now before people have a chance to vote. Or wait until he's president and foment a coup. An inside government takeover. That appears to be what they're going to do. An inside government takeover, that appears to be the second option. That's what they're going with. Laura Logan, fantastic journalist Laura Logan, says the real fascists are the ones afraid of the people. They never meant it when they said this was a government of the people, for the people, by the people. That was supposed to control, not be exercised. The people are taking their government back from the elites, and the elites can't stand it. So what are the elites going to do if Nikki Haley can't beat Trump? They want her to beat Trump. They're setting her up to try to beat Trump. All the money is going to Nikki Haley right now. On purpose. Well, according to NBC, they're going to take the military away from Trump. In other words, a coup. There's no other way to slice it. According to a report in NBC News, which is not some far-right publication, Democratic lawmakers, advocacy groups, former government officials are, quote, quietly devising plans to stop former President Donald Trump from taking control of the United States military if elected president in 2024, in November of this year.
Like Myanmar?
Yeah, like Myanmar. Like, this isn't Bolivia, right? We're turning into like a banana republic here. This is mainstream American NBC News telling us this. This isn't like some publication on some what people would say is an extremist right-wing website or something like that. No, this is NBC News telling us what the deep state is planning. The NBC News report is titled this: Fears grow that Trump will use the military in dictatorial ways if he returns to the White House, among those being mentioned for Trump's defense secretary, et cetera, et cetera. Fears grow, Trump will use the military. And this report details how the deep state has created a, quote, loose-knit network of public interest groups and lawmakers that are preparing to foil any efforts for Trump to use the military to carry out his political agenda. Essentially wrestling control of the military away from Trump. You can't make this up. I mean, this is literally in the text. You can read it for yourselves.
But Biden is using the military to start endless wars and continue endless wars. So he can use the military if it's actually being used to continue to kill people. Bonus points if they're brown people.
Right, but with this NBC News report, which we'll go in more detail here in a second, is the idea that, oh, what if Trump uses the military to go after political adversaries? Oh, you mean like how the Biden administration weaponized the Department of Justice to go after political enemies?
Right.
Right? I mean, so Biden, to your point, is literally doing what they're worried that Trump will do. And they're worried that he will then use the Department of Justice to go after political enemies. He'll use the military to go after political enemies, and he will become an authoritarian leader. Former Trump Pentagon advisor Colonel Douglas Macgregor.
Can you, just before you make that point, though, because I read the book by the special investigators of the Mueller investigation, Andrew Weissman, and they tried really hard to accuse Trump of misusing power during their investigations, and they could not conclusively find it. So we have precedents of him being in the White House.
We have 4 years of precedence.
They tried to prove that he was doing just that and were unable.
Yeah.
And so it's such a baseless fear, and we have a guy doing it.
Right. But this is what the liberals and liberal media are concerned about. Oh, and by the way, the neocons. So the Nikki Haley wing.
My point is, I don't really think that they believe it themselves.
Well, that's what Colonel Douglas Macgregor, I think he thinks that they don't believe it themselves either, and yet they're doing it anyway, and they've done it to great success already. Listen to what Colonel Macgregor just told me.
Officers, it's pure bullshit. I mean, it's just nonsense. So, and they've also tried to essentially turn it into a non-white organization. I mean, that's obvious. Look at the picks that they've made. So I know, no doubt that's probably real in their minds. Now, will it work the way they want it to? I don't know. They could end up with a very divided military that doesn't do what they want it to do. You know, remember that they wanted to get rid of everybody and anybody who remotely leaned to the right in the General Officer Corps and the admirals in the Navy. So they've succeeded.
They've succeeded. So they want to remake the Pentagon. They want to do this. It's total bullshit, what Colonel Macgregor says. But it's absolutely, they've done it before, and what's to stop them from doing it now? Now, though, they've all gone on the record. These people have gone on the record to NBC News. These aren't like anonymous sources floating around. No. So let's go through this NBC News report, because there are off-the-record sources, but a lot of people on the record telling NBC exactly what they plan to do to Trump. NBC, of course, has deep connections to the Pentagon and the CIA. You can read the Cato Institute's report on how members of the CIA went to work for NBC News. So there's a deep connection here with the intelligence community and NBC News. Journalist Paul Sperry also confirming the NBC News report, saying, breaking, Obama DOJ official Mary McCord, part of General Flynn coup, secretly worked with the January 6th committee's Red Team and Purple Team investigators. Quote, we're already starting to put together a team to think through the most damaging types of things Trump might do, end quote. They're building a team to undermine a future president of the United States. So let's just go through this NBC News report a little bit more in depth here, because it's absolutely bonkers and crazy. You can just kind of roll it here on the screen, Philip. America's commander-in-chief has vast powers at his disposal, some well-known, others not so much. Some lawmakers and pro-democracy advocates worried there may be nothing stopping a president from mobilizing the military to intervene in elections, police American streets, or quash domestic protests. Some lawmakers on Capitol Hill worry that Trump might invoke the Insurrectionist Act to involve the armed forces in the face of domestic protests, or if the midterm elections don't go his way. One of my favorite quotes, though, is from Senator Richard Blumenthal, is crafting a bill that would clarify the Insurrectionist Act and give Congress and courts some say in its use instead of the president. And chances of passage are slim, given that Republicans control the House and are largely loyal to Trump. And he says, Richard Blumenthal says, there are an array of horrors that could result from Donald Trump's unrestricted use of the Insurrection Act, Blumenthal said in an interview. A malignantly motivated president could use it in a vast variety of dictatorial ways unless at some point the military itself resisted what they deemed to be an unlawful order. I mean, it goes on and on and on in here.
But I do recall that this was part of the narrative in the 2016 campaign as well. They said that a lot of military people are telling high-up media sources that they won't follow Trump's command because he's a blowhard and they don't like him. So they did try this before. This is a repeat. Whether or not they're actually sources who are intending on doing it this time around is a different story.
Well, we already know Mark Milley did. We already know that related to the January 6th and even before that.
Yeah.
And Trump's ability to use nuclear weapons or have access to certain types of weapons, that the president, the commander-in-chief of the military. Under the Constitution of the United States, he is the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military. So when you have literally members of Congress, a loose-knit organization, Democrats and otherwise, who are saying they're going to wrest control of the military away from the commander-in-chief, that's not the United States of America. That is a coup.
Yes,
that is something entirely different. The United States president has the power of the military. That's how it's always been. And by the way, wait a second. You're worried that the president of the United States might actually put American troops, American forces in the streets of the United States? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? In fact, for decades, the United States military was stationed at the U.S. southern border for decades. That's why people didn't come across the border. So what's wrong with actually stationing American troops at the southern border again? Would that be an insurrection? Would that be a violation of the Constitution? No, it's in the president's authority. And many, many Republican presidents and Democratic presidents have done so and used the U.S. military to protect our nation. What about having people, American forces, actually in the streets of America to protect our cities right now? Have you seen the crime wave that's sweeping our country? There's an idea. Would it be so bad, actually, to have American forces actually being used here at home instead of in Syria or in Yemen, for crying out loud, or being sent to Israel? We could use the National Guard, which is supposed to be here to guard nationally our country, here in the United States instead of being sent to Somalia, which is happening. It's just an idea. So they're so scared about that. I'm just kind of appalled at that idea. It's
well, they'll call it racist. Like, oh, you're really just going to go out there to target brown people because we don't like anyone who is mean to brown people on American soil. We just love to kill them on their own soil. Right. So once you get to Somalia, we don't care about you and we'll gun you down, right? But here, anyone who's bad to you, we'll call racist.
It's unbelievable. William Cohen, of course, former Clinton administration official. Here's another great quote in this piece from NBC News. "He's a clear and present danger to our democracy," says William Cohen, former Republican senator from Maine, defense secretary in the Clinton administration, who is not involved in the loose-knit network. So NBC has outed these people. His support is solid, and I don't think people understand what living in a dictatorship would mean. So NBC really has the information about what this loose-knit network of undermining military coup individuals is. Maybe they should come forward, because we've been told that the greatest threat to our democracy is white MAGA extremists. But here NBC News is literally explaining that a threat to our democracy is a loose-knit group of liberal donors and groups and interest groups that are going to undermine our democracy. Maybe NBC News should call the FBI and give them the names of these individuals that are literally going to foment a coup in the United States.
Good idea.
They're probably so freaking busy right now still going after January 6 grandmas who drove by the Capitol that afternoon. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic here, but we were told the greatest threat to democracy are MAGA extremists. Here NBC is telling us that there's a group that they know about that's trying to undermine our democracy and our Constitution. It's not just the United States deep state that works in lockstep it's not just us, it's the deep state that's also working in lockstep with the United Kingdom, the UK government as well. Here's Sky News in England laying out the exact same claims about Trump. They released these reports almost simultaneously. Oh, do you think they're in collusion? Donald Trump re-election could threaten UK's national security, claims ex-MI6 boss. I mean, it's laughable. General Mike Flynn, who knows a thing or two about coup attempts to come after him, tweeted this: "The American people will not be fooled again. These people are the real danger to democracy." Hey, took the words out of my mouth. And they are supported by their rhino establishment counterparts who are all out to benefit themselves more than benefit our country. Important primaries happening across our country, starting with Iowa. Americans need to get out and vote in droves for America First candidates across the board. Let's overwhelm them where it still matters. Because Laura Logan, as I mentioned, has a theory as to who's running the deep state. So who's behind all of this? She seems to know. She says the deep state that's trying to stop the Trump operation, Q. Q is the highest level of security clearance. QAnon was created to discredit Q. The only way for people to see the whole truth is to unmask the Anons behind the QAnon. It's not General Flynn, that's for sure. My money is on Stan McChrystal. and his team of operatives who have been running this operation out of his Arlington office for a few years. And your idea? And your idea? So this is what's happening. And, you know, as American voters and people who care deeply about the future of our country and what happens to the United States of America as a beacon of liberty and hope for the world, when you literally have the U.S. Constitution being undermined and and NBC News reporting on it with a group of individuals who plan to do it, I think it's time for us to, you know, take action, do something about this.
In my opinion, this is an incitement of violence too, because they're saying that, you know, they're doing the very same thing that they've accused Trump of doing out on his campaigning, which is inciting Americans. But like, what are they doing? They're saying that MAGA are extremists, and if this guy takes over the country, we're all doomed. I mean, that is an incitement of violence.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah, let us know what you think about this in the chat. We got a lot of super chats on this tonight, so let me just take a few of them here. They are presenting the narrative. What needs to be done, should be done, is to arrest and charge those of the corrupt. The military would be used to arrest government officials guilty of corruption. Yelling dictator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of other. Thank you for your super chats here. So I'm, you know, really angry about this. As you can tell, reading this, it just makes me absolutely furious. And the double standard here is, I mean, it's unbelievable. To your point earlier about President Biden and what they've been trying to level against Trump for years, and they have no evidence of it. But what Biden is currently doing, they have full evidence of it. Where's the investigation? Where's the concern from liberals about what President Biden is doing? Going after political opponents. Are you worried about that at all? Are you concerned about that? Let us know in the comments below.
I mean, again, we're not here to promote any one candidate, but when your narrative revolves around you lacking curiosity about holes in your stories, then you're doing a disservice. And that's what the journalists are doing right now. And by reporting this bit, that a Trump presidency would be handicapped because there are people who would not obey him, right? You are inciting, what is the word they use? Inciting insurrection. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so whoever is doing this is doing the same thing that we're accusing the Trump campaign of, the Trump camp.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway. And as Americans, we should all be upset about this and worried about this, you know, and make your votes count. You know, make sure you're voting and making sure that you're going out and being a part of this process right now and letting them know where you stand on this. They're freaking out clearly because they want Nikki Haley in there. And that's where the money is going right now. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. You know, YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. And we will see you next time, everyone.